What's going
All
on,
right.
everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, joined here by none other than a former NFL player and a jack of all trades, Nolan Harrison. Nolan, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. Nolan, growing up in high school, you were a star athlete in football, wrestling, track, whatever you put your mind to. You seemed to be great at, and you did wrestling really to buff up and get stronger and bigger for the football season. Your coaches told you. So, how was wrestling? You ever think about ever moving to a different sport other than football? And what was your recruiting process like for the football?
Well, so I always tell people this is more of one of those. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. So the story behind my multi-sport career was that I was super tall and super skinny. So just imagine I'm still 6'6". 6'6", at that time when I first started playing, I might have been 145, 150. So I'm just my clothes probably weighed more than me at one point. And but I wanted to play football. So my coaches were like, listen, we want you to wrestle during wrestling season because it'll teach you how to take on guys that are bigger and stronger than you. You'll learn technique and you'll be able to use their weight against them. And we want you to run track because you're so long and gangly. I mean, I was like Gumby. My arms and legs were going all over the place. It'll teach you how to run. So I ran track and became pretty darn good at it to learn how to run to play football better. And I wrestled to be a better football player. Now, if I was ever to switch sports, I actually got a couple at the end of the day. I ended up getting a couple of D2 and small D1 scholarship offers to wrestle. So I dig that sport. If I was to switch up anything, either wrestling or volleyball. Love both sports. I played beach when I was out with the LA Raiders when we were in El Segundo. I used to hang out at Hermosa Beach all the time with the pro volleyball players. We used to train together. And then, of course, both of my daughters ended up playing all the way through high school, and my oldest daughter is playing in college. So love that sport, too. So if I was to pick two sports, wrestling and volleyball, I'd switch up and play those.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you ended up playing football at the University of Indiana for a multitude of reasons, from the academics to the playing time you were offered. So how was your college career, and what was the toughest part about being a student athlete? Because I've seen stories and I've interviewed people that they had a game at 7 and they had a test in the morning at 9 o'clock. So what was the toughest part about that?
Time management. That's the biggest thing. If you didn't have time management skills before you went in, it's really hard to all of a sudden have a full-time job, which is college athletics, and a full-time job, which is being a student. So the whole term student athlete is basically a dual professional. You have your full class load. You can't take anything less than anybody else. And then the moment you get done with practice, you got to go to training table. And heaven forbid you actually heard it's 100% injury sport football is. So you're in training room getting some kind of treatment on some injury that you have. Then you go to, like I said, training table for food. Then you go to your tutoring. And then by the time you get back to the room, so I left the room at maybe 7 in the morning. I didn't get back to the room until 10 o'clock at night. That was a daily during the football season. It was let up a little bit in the spring. Of course, summers we had off, but I wanted to make sure I graduated on time, so I took summer classes. But it was a grind. And the whole identity of it, staying out of trouble. I went to Indiana University. Is a massive, massive school, beautiful campus, so many distractions. So you just got to be focused, man. And you just got to love what you do, love the other part of it. I love school. So it's just one of those things where as long as you continue to stay focused, it won't cause you any problems.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I went to college at 17, so I was younger than everybody else. It's you always go through those growing pains, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. It was tough though. It was tough. My oldest daughter's playing college volleyball now. Way smarter than I am. Thank God she got more of her mother's brains than I. But she's Dean's List and still going out having a good time and still balling out. She had a career-ending knee injury, so she's not playing anymore. But just she managed it even better than I did. So it's a fun thing. It's a blessing to be able to get somebody to pay for your school at a top institution, and it's what you do with it after that. That's the most important thing. I think I parlayed it pretty well.
Yeah, you've done a lot of things. Doesn't mention you're a jack of all trades, and we'll get to that a bit later in the interview. But you were drafted by the Raiders in the 6th round of the NFL draft in 1991. Back then, they had 12 rounds, so it was a lot different. Two questions. Firstly, were there any other teams knocking on your door and you thought might draft you before the Raiders did? And secondly, what was your hey rookie moment? Because I interviewed Mike McGlinchey, who's the offensive lineman for the 49ers, and he actually got laid out by J.J. Watt on the first day in his NFL career. So what was your moment?
Oh, mine's bad too. I'd say so. Go to the draft part, right? I was supposed to get drafted higher than I was, and what a lot of people don't know, unless you actually follow the draft back then. Yes, it was 12. So I was a mid draft guy. So that's the equivalent of today. I'd probably be a 4th round draft pick. But Minnesota, actually, the Vikings actually drafted me, and there was a trade that happened. So the Raiders traded for that position. And then the Raiders ended up getting me, which was phenomenal because I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I'm a Chicago kid. But my AFC love was the Los Angeles Raiders. So it just couldn't have happened any better. The next day I got the call. I didn't go on day 1, day 2. There wasn't there wasn't continuous coverage like there is today. So I'm literally sitting by my phone and waiting for the phone to ring. I stayed up. I watched 5 movies, stayed up all night because I couldn't sleep because I didn't get drafted on day 1. And then finally, probably 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, that call comes, and it's Art Shell, then the head coach, and then Al Davis, God rest his soul. So he couldn't wait for me to get out there and be a Raider. So best experience I ever had. It was like, well, it didn't go the way you wanted to. People like to say, like people in the green room and not getting drafted in the position. But man, once you're in it, when you realize that you are one of, the 1/10 of 1% of everybody who goes for those spots, and you got it. Someone wants you, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. Now, my rookie moment, I did get my butt kicked pretty badly, but that was during the season. I said my first hey rookie moment was, so I was, big football fan growing up early. So Warren Moon, Hall of Famer, he's one of the best quarterbacks. He was playing still, right? And still playing at a super high level. Preseason game, I sack Warren. I'm just I'm a fan, so I'm besides myself. I'm so I go to help him up, and there's on the back of my rookie card, you can see me reaching down to help somebody up. That's actually Warren Moon on the ground. I got to the sideline, and my coach lit me up. He's like, I don't care what you do, but as long as you're on this team, you will not help an opponent up during the game. You can shake hands afterwards. Y'all can go out to dinner, have drinks, be friends and everything. But during the game, I better not ever see you help your opponent up. That was the Raiders way back then. Things are differently now. But and I just remember Howie Long looking at me, rookie. So that was my rookie moment. And then in terms of playing wise, Anthony Munoz kicked my butt all game. All game. Hall of Famer. And I just thought I'm just bigger and stronger than he is, and I'm gonna make my name versus this future Hall of Famer, and I'm just gonna. Man, he wore me out the whole game. He wore me out so bad he was talking smack to me during the game. I'd make a good play, and he would be, "Hey man, that's a really good play. That's a really good play. You should try that again." Then he'd drill me into the ground "Oh, that wasn't what you should have done. You shouldn't have done that." And it gets in your head. So those are my rookie moments. I learned a lot from them. Learned a lot from it, though. Keep your emotions under control. Don't let other people talk you out of your game. But, it's not too bad to get your butt kicked by a Hall of Famer or get in trouble for helping up another Hall of Famer. So it's not bad.
It's amazing. And the best thing I love about Warren Moon is I think he's a Hall of Famer in Canada, too. So he had a great CFL career and he had a great NFL career. And not many people can say they've done that. I know Doug Flutie, he also did both. So he's had success in 2 countries, which is really interesting. And you had you had a nice 6-year stint in Oakland filled with many memories, as you just mentioned. So what's your fondest memory of your days in Oakland and LA?
Wow. We had so many. I played with great players. Howie Long, Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig, Eric Dickerson. The Raiders were famous for bringing in guys that people thought were done. And giving them a home. And so I got to play with all these great future Hall of Famers. We're in L.A., so you got the Lake Show, the Lakers, the Rams are still in L.A., so you got the crosstown rival L.A. Rams, you got the L.A. Raiders. I'm a 21-year-old kid, just for my first time in California, living out by myself. It was just an awesome experience. It really, really was. Going to the playoffs my first 2 years when most guys could play 10, 15 years and never make the playoffs was phenomenal. Didn't keep, obviously, but I didn't get back to the playoffs again until I got to Pittsburgh. But playing against those great guys, playing with those great teams, getting sacks of against Elway and Thurman Thomas, and I've got one great picture of me just completely blasting Emmitt Smith where it's like vertical, where I'm over the top of him and I bent him backwards because I caught him in the hole and just bent him backwards. So I'm on top and he's underneath me like this, and he pops up. He's like, "Good hit, man, good hit," and goes back to the huddle. I'm like, "Man, this is great. This is great." So I mean, just a lot of it was just I'm a fan. I'm a fan that was blessed enough to play, to me, the greatest sport in the world. And it was just, I can't point to one thing. It was just fun all the way around. It really, really was.
Yeah, and speaking of those great players, and I wanted this for a bit later, but who was the greatest player you've ever played against? Because you played against a lot of great guys. And as Tom Brady was entering the league, you were just, coming to an end. So who's the best player you've ever played?
Drill it down. You mean like one-on-one position-wise or quarterback or
I would say
just
any player, because I know for you as a defensive end, obviously you might say an offensive lineman, but just as a whole, any offensive player that you played who just stood out to you.
The guy I feared the most was Barry Sanders. Mm-hmm. It's just he was every bit as advertised. He would we'd watch film on him, and the whole room would just go quiet. Some of our guys are joking around in the meeting room. We put Barry's film on when we play the Lions, and you see the things that he does slow down, or we do the end zone copy, which is phenomenal. I love end zone copy. So you see Barry, you see the whole defense doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Everyone's doing their job, and he makes you look stupid. He just makes you look stupid. He can change directions better than I've ever, and I still haven't seen anybody who could do it like he does. He would stop on a dime. He would drop. His ass would drop and would basically almost touch his heels, hop to the side, and be gone down the side. And we're all laying on the ground looking around like, how the hell did that happen? He was there and he wasn't. I mean, best way I could describe it, because I'm a huge anime fan, is flash step. So if you watch Bleach, you know what the flash step is. But it just there and gone. He was like the human flash step, and it was just he was deadly. We were good enough to actually keep him under 100 yards every time we played him, but it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying because every single moment out of every single quarter, he can make you look stupid. I mean, you think about what he did to Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson, Hall of Famer, and he made Rod Woodson blow his knee out because Rod decided he wanted to dance with him and do all this, and he was inhuman with what he could do. So I'd say Barry was definitely the best player I ever played against and the one I feared the most.
Yeah, he was amazing, and I'm finally glad Matt Stafford got to LA because we've seen him, of course, the Detroit curse. It was him and Calvin Johnson, two generational talents, two of the best players of all time. I was luckily interviewed one question at the Pro Football Hall of Fame just recently to Calvin Johnson. He's a great guy, but it's a shame their careers were kind of cut short because of Detroit. And so Matt Stafford now is looking like an MVP over in LA, and it's great to see that.
Being an NFC, being a Chicago fan, grew up in Chicago, it's tongue in cheek, talk about the Lions and Green Bay and Minnesota and stuff like that. But you really do feel for guys like that. I mean, they gave everything they could to that organization. I don't think that organization is run the way it should be. They've had so many issues over the years, so many great players, and they have success when they leave. And I wanted Megatron to thrive, just not against my Bears, obviously, or me when I was playing. But, you want those guys to thrive because they work hard, they're good men, and, they deserve greatness. And to have the organization keep you down for whatever reasons, it's hard. I was blessed enough to play with three great organizations. The last one is kind of dealing with some stuff right now, but, lots of Lombardis, lots of history, and, lots of us have done some great stuff since then. So it's not everybody has the same NFL experience. So I'm sure you got that from Calvin when you interviewed him. I'm sure he's probably a little salty about how it went down with him, but it's still a blessing. Still a blessing.
And just to jump into those other teams that you played for, not many people ever explain the process of being traded. So what goes on a trade from a player standpoint? So when you know you're going to be traded, like how many weeks, how many days before? And how hard was it to say goodbye to the Raiders, especially since you were so close to them? And you mentioned Al Davis. You had a very great relationship with him. How hard was it to say goodbye?
It was extremely hard. I was not traded, so I will give you the business of football, right? I had signed a 4-year deal, and it was towards the end of my deal where I was getting my biggest payouts. And Al came to me and he said, "Listen, we need to." Larry Brown was, former Dallas Cowboy, Pro Bowl defensive back. We need to, I need to get somebody behind you, Nolan, to help you out. Larry Brown's available. We need you to take a little bit of a pay cut. Be a good soldier for us, and we'll defense will be awesome. We get him on board. So I took a pay cut with the understanding that I wasn't going to have to deal with that the next year, and I was going to be rewarded in my next contract. The next year, he came to me and asked me to take another pay cut for Jeff George, and I'm like, Al, I took a pay cut last year for you. I was a good soldier. I'm not going to take another pay cut. And he's like, well, we're going to have to release you. So I got cut, and it was, when you think you're Mr. Raider, you think you love the team, you give everything 100% to it, and you realize it comes down to dollars and cents. That was a rude awakening for me, but a good one, because I learned, and obviously it shaped how I do things and how I did things. When I left him, but it was tough. It was tough. And to his credit, Al Davis called me up later afterwards because I did a little something. I was a little savvy, so my agents told Al and the management that I would agree to the terms of a new deal, which was going to be less money. They were going to restructure my contract, and so they cut me. And the moment they cut me, I went on the waiver wire. So the waiver wire is this ethos of guys when they get cut, and that's when teams can come and get you. And there's a certain time period and everything like that. But by them cutting me, I was immediately a free agent. Immediately, Seattle called me, and they were in the AFC West at that time. So obviously, I'd kick their butts 2 times a year for 5 years, 6 years at that point. They called me, and I was on a plane within 24 hours to Seattle. Then San Diego called me, another AFC West team, and then I get a call from Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, Jim Haslett was the defensive coordinator. They went on to become a head coach. He's still a defensive coordinator now with under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Great guy, great coach. He was the defensive coordinator, and he called me. He's like, "I want you to come to Pittsburgh. Just come and see what we're doing. Come and see." And Pittsburgh had just come off the Super Bowl, so lots of Pro Bowlers in that defense. Lots of great guys. And so I'm like, all right, I'll take the trip to Pittsburgh. And so John Mitchell, my defensive line coach, was there, and they sat me down and took me a nice dinner and everything. It did the whole romancing thing, which was great. It was awesome. Pittsburgh restaurants, if you haven't been there, they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. But anyway, I sat down in the film room, and they showed me the defense from last year. They showed me the defensive film. And they showed me the guy I was going to be playing next to, Joel Steed. Now, Joel didn't play enough, unfortunately, to be a Hall of Famer, but because of injuries. But, man, in his heyday, in his prime, I saw him pick up the centers, multiples, over different teams, off the ground and throw them into the quarterbacks. He would get sacks by throwing the offensive lineman into the quarterback. And so they showed me, I probably watched about 10 minutes of it, and they cut the lights back on and looked at me and they said, "Hey, what do you think? That's what's waiting for you if you want to come." I almost signed a contract before I left Pittsburgh. It was a no-brainer. And the next year, that season, we had one of the best seasons of any Pittsburgh Steelers defense. We broke a lot of the Steel Curtains records, went to the AFC Championship game and lost to Denver, and Denver went on to win their first Super Bowl under John Elway. So it was a good decision. And 3 years later, great times in Pittsburgh, and then finish up with Washington. It's the best decision I made with what was left, because Seattle didn't do much at that time. They didn't do great until they left the AFC West. And neither did the Chargers. They had already passed their time. So best business decision that I made, and great memories from it.
Yeah, I love Bill Cowher as well. He's an amazing coach, and I just love the passion and intensity. I feel like everything he does so great. Just like you with your finance career after the NFL and what you do with the NFLPA. I mean, you really succeed at everything, just like Bill Cowher. You see him on TV, and he's a natural, and he's just such a great guy and such a great coach. And I really love his story. I've watched The Football Life on him, and it's one of the best ones I've seen. So he's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned your time in Washington. When did you know it was time to hang up the boots and retire from the NFL?
I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. My deal with Washington was 1 year with an option, and yeah, I wasn't ready for my career to end. Now, ask my wife that question. She was ready for my career to end when we were in Pittsburgh because my body started breaking down. So, we met it towards the end of my career with the Raiders, and I was this human juggernaut. I couldn't be hurt. I never got hurt. I hardly ever missed a game. But by the time I got to Pittsburgh, we're at year 7 of my career. The average NFL career is only 3.5 years. Especially deep linemen, it's even lower. And so my body started breaking down, tearing muscles. I tore both pecs, tore my hamstring in 2 places. And so she'd seen me rehab and go through pain, and you never want to see a loved one go through that kind of stuff. I mean, it sucks. But I still wasn't ready to give it up. Made it to Washington. Then I had to. I'm never ashamed to be a backup to a guy like Bruce Smith, who Hall of Famer. And that's what ended up happening. I was supposed to be the run-stopping first and second down guy, and Bruce was going to come in on third down. Bruce did not want to leave the field, so I ended up being relegated to being a backup all across the board, which was fine. But when my career, the injuries and everything happened, literally training camp, I tore my MCL. One of our offensive linemen in practice threw a linebacker in the back of my knee. I missed some preseason games, came back for the Pittsburgh one, which was the last one, and I played the whole season. But, you're at year 10, which that was my 10th season. They were like, yeah, he's kind of injury prone. Every year, for the past 4 years, some kind of injury had me miss games. And you start looking at salary cap and money, no matter how much good guy I am, good locker room guy, helping the young guys out, making sure I was a player rep for many years, so making sure the guys are doing the right stuff. That's not gonna buy you any more time, and it's not gonna keep you healthy. So they made a business decision, and they didn't exercise the option, and that literally ended my career. And I trained like everybody else that first year, thinking maybe somebody would pick me up, but I was also a realist. I'd already had my career post-football set up, so as depressed as I was about not getting at least one more year in, I got 10. I got 10 years. Most guys can't say that. So it was a blessing, but it sucked. It sucks. Retiring against your will is never fun. It's never fun.
It's a great mindset you have, and you had a great career, and you played alongside a lot of great guys. And you mentioned Mike Rabel, who is now the coach in Tennessee. So you played alongside a lot of guys like that, and it's amazing. And you mentioned what you did for the NFLPA. I mentioned it previously as well. So you were a player representative when you're a player, and now you're still with them as the senior director of former player services department. So what's that role mean? What do you do, and what do you do with the NFLPA?
15,000-foot view, because there's so many moving parts. I'm the head of former players for the union, and my job overall is to make sure that I put together resources and opportunities for former players that can be aged 22 years old to 99, 100 years old. There are 23, 24,000 of us who are out there who play professional football. It's my job to put together resources and opportunities and everything from small as discounts for us to when we negotiate CBAs and we're trying to get greater benefits, retirement benefits for our guys. That's all encompassing in what I've been doing for the last 11 years in this position. I absolutely love it. It's a blessing to be able to do this because these are my guys. These are my fraternity brothers. So it's intimate for me, but it's my calling, and I absolutely dig it. Absolutely dig it.
That's amazing. And just to wrap up here, previously you were also a financial advisor for a couple of companies, including Northern Trust, and that one stuck out to me as I went to the Northern Trust golf tournament and I saw the PGA guys, and I love golf, so it was really cool to see those guys so up close here in New Jersey. So how was your transition from the field to being a financial advisor, and do you at all miss working in the finance field?
Yes, I do. So I really dug it. So back all the way up to when I was in Pittsburgh, I did the NFL internship program, which led me to Northwestern Mutual, and I became a full life agent while I was still playing for Pittsburgh. So I guess when I said that I had my life, ready to go if football ended for me, I did. I had actually 2 jobs. So I love finance. When I retired, I ended up buying a couple of businesses because I was tired of people yelling at me. I wanted to, be my own boss. But then I got back into finance, and Northern Trust was the first institution that I joined after being with Northwestern Mutual. And I had a great mentor, absolutely loved what I did. And then I went from there to Morgan Stanley Smith Barney. I got recruited out of Northern Trust to go to Morgan Stanley Smith Barney. And then I ended up with First Midwest. And all of them across the road, it's all about, investment policy statements, making sure that all of my clients are taken care of. I was always very conservative with their money, as I am with my own. So, it was never too high with the highs, never too low with the lows. When everything went to hell in a handbasket in the different financial crises we had, my clients didn't get hurt as badly because of the institutions that I was representing. We're always very conservative, making sure that guys were, their clients are taken care of. Love that. I love that business. My oldest daughter is going to be going into that. She's a finance major. So I just think it's a great industry to be in. It's dynamic and it's fluid, and you can make a great career out of it. So I completely dug it. Funny story about Northern Trust. We had a lot of golfers that were clients, and my CEO my mentor was a former baseball player. And he had an affinity for a lot of the golfers that in Arizona, where I was, Scottsdale, Arizona, there's a ton of golf courses. So we had a lot of PGA guys that were clients. And me being a former player, it was a cool affinity. So I talked to a lot of those guys a lot. And we were thinking about sponsoring a golf tournament. Fast forward, you got the Northern Trust Open, and but I sat in on the original meetings and the genesis of all that stuff, and to see how it's just grown and expanded from the brainchild of my former mentor and CEO is just very fun. And just remembering being a part of that. Would you do this? How would you guys, what would your constituents dig? Would they like to be a part of this thing? So it's fun. So I'm glad you're enjoying it because it's a cool thing. I'm glad they still do it.
Yeah, well, I guess you should say thank you for helping make it, because that was an amazing time that I had. I loved seeing those golfers, and the biggest thing about the PGA too that I love is you get so up close to the where it is, and you get so close to the golfers. I was high-fiving them, and you're walking right by me. And for football, you're in the stand, so you're 20. If you get a really good seat, you're 20 yards away. If you get a seat like I might get, you're about 100 yards away. So it's
or like I might get too. So I'm up there too.
Yeah, so it's a lot different, and it was amazing, the Northern Trust, and I thank you for the time that you spent. Everybody, make sure to go follow Nolan Harrison on Instagram, and I really appreciate the time.
Appreciate you having me, Chris. Thank you.